You may think the deepest pain in a relationship is betrayal, but the real torment is something quieter and more unsettling. It is the moment when you realize you have been holding someone close while their loyalty has already drifted somewhere else. Sighs. It is kissing someone without knowing that those same lips may have belonged to another moment, another man, another secret. Many men comfort themselves with easy explanations. They say her distance must be stress, aging, or the natural rhythm of a long relationship. But reality is often more uncomfortable. People rarely confess these things openly, yet their behavior begins to reveal the truth. And when those signals are ignored, a man can unknowingly participate in his own humiliation. That is why today I want to talk about several subtle signs that many men overlook until the damage is already done. Curious. These clues rarely arrive with drama or clear proof. Instead, they appear quietly, hidden in small changes that are easy to dismiss. The first sign often shows itself through the language of the body. When you have shared enough time with someone, you begin to recognize their natural warmth. You know how their touch feels when it is genuine, how their body leans toward you without hesitation, how affection flows naturally. But when something changes, that warmth can fade into a strange silence. You try to kiss her and she turns slightly away. You reach out at night and instead of relaxing into you, her body becomes tense. She may say she is simply tired, yet the feeling is different. Exhaustion softens a person. Indifference hardens them. Many men struggle to accept this difference. They convince themselves it is temporary or harmless, but emotional attraction rarely disappears without a reason. When someone feels fulfilled somewhere else, the hunger they once showed you can fade. It becomes like trying to spark a fire in wood that has already burned out. No matter how many matches you strike, the warmth does not return. The mistake many men make in that moment is chasing harder. They try to push through the distance, hoping effort will restore what used to come naturally. But sometimes the wiser move is to step back and observe. When you stop chasing, the truth reveals itself. If desire is still alive, she will eventually move toward you again. If it is gone, the silence only grows deeper. Another subtle change can appear in daily routines. After spending time elsewhere, someone may suddenly become unusually focused on cleanliness. Long showers that were never part of the routine begin to appear. A new perfume replaces the old scent you were familiar with. Clothes are changed quickly, laundry becomes guarded, and small habits shift in ways that do not quite match the rest of the day. On the surface, it may look like simple self-care, but sometimes it is something else entirely. People understand that their bodies carry traces of where they have been. Smell, clothing, and even small details can reveal more than words ever will. So they wash, spray, and change in an effort to erase what came before. Ironically, the more someone tries to hide something, the more noticeable the pattern becomes. The important thing is not the action itself, but the sudden change in behavior. Psychology is rarely about one isolated moment. It is about patterns that no longer match the person you thought you knew. Then there is another shift that often follows guilt. Instead of honesty, irritation begins to grow. Small things suddenly become reasons for conflict. The way you speak, the way you relax, even the smallest habits can become targets of criticism. It may feel confusing because nothing obvious has changed on your side, but the tension keeps appearing. There is a reason for this pattern. When someone feels guilt, they cannot easily admit they sometimes redirect that discomfort outward. By turning you into the problem, they soften the weight of their own choices. In their mind, the story slowly changes. Instead of seeing themselves as someone who stepped outside the relationship, they begin convincing themselves that your flaws pushed them there. Understanding these shifts is not about paranoia or constant suspicion. It is about awareness. Relationships speak through behavior long before words appear. When patterns change, when warmth turns to distance, when habits shift without explanation, those signals deserve attention. The goal is not to react with anger or desperation. The goal is clarity. Once you see the truth in someone's behavior, you stop wasting your energy trying to revive something that may no longer exist. And that clarity, painful as it may be, is often the first step toward reclaiming your dignity. What often happens next is psychological projection. When someone feels guilty but cannot face that feeling, they unconsciously push the blame outward. Instead of confronting what they've done, they begin pointing at you. Suddenly, small things become problems. Your habits, your tone, even harmless mistakes turn into arguments. The reason isn't really those things. The real reason is the conflict inside her. By turning you into the problem, she avoids seeing herself as the one who crossed the line. Most men fall straight into the trap by defending themselves. They explain, argue, and try to prove they did nothing wrong. But guilt doesn't respond to logic. The more you defend yourself, the easier it becomes for her to keep the narrative that you're the villain. Before long, you find yourself carefully walking around your own home, afraid that anything you say might start another conflict. The smarter shift is simple. Stop fighting for the argument and start protecting your dignity. When she snaps at you over something trivial, don't react emotionally. Don't plead your case or try to debate every accusation. Stay calm, look her in the eye, and respond with quiet confidence. Something as simple as saying, "You don't have to create a fight to justify what you've already decided," changes the entire dynamic. Then step away. Not because you're weak, but because you're refusing to participate in a game designed to trap you. That moment is powerful because it disrupts the role she expects you to play. When you refuse to perform the part of the defensive partner, the script she built begins to fall apart. Her guilt has nowhere else to go, so it settles back where it belongs, with her. Many men worry that silence looks like weakness. In reality, the opposite is true. Weakness is being dragged into endless arguments that drain your peace. Strength is maintaining control and refusing to be manipulated. But projection is only one layer of the mask. The deeper truth often reveals itself through something even harder to hide: the body. A person can rehearse explanations and carefully choose their words, but the body has its own language. You know the person you share a life with. You know how they move, how they respond, and how their energy feels around you. That's why when something shifts, even slightly, you sense it. Maybe her reactions feel different. Maybe her warmth disappears or appears in ways that feel forced. Sometimes the change is subtle, other times it's obvious. Either way, it rarely happens without reason. Many men ignore this instinct because acknowledging it is painful. They tell themselves it must be hormones, stress, or a temporary mood, and sometimes those explanations are true, but when the change is sudden and doesn't match her normal patterns, your instincts deserve attention. Pretending everything is fine doesn't save the relationship. It only delays facing reality. Another confusing stage can happen when guilt shows itself in the opposite way. Instead of distance, she becomes unusually affectionate. Suddenly, there are extra hugs, kisses, sweet words, and emotional moments that feel almost exaggerated. At first, it seems like things are improving, and that hope can be powerful. But sometimes that affection is not about love, it's about easing her own conscience. After crossing a line, some people try to quiet their guilt by overcompensating. They become extra caring, extra attentive, almost theatrical in their kindness. It looks like closeness, but the motivation behind it is different. The attention isn't always about reconnecting with you. It can be about calming the discomfort they feel inside themselves. The mistake men make here is accepting that affection as proof that everything is fixed. They relax their guard and stop paying attention to the deeper changes, but real love shows consistency. It doesn't appear suddenly after moments of unexplained absence. When affection feels rehearsed instead of natural, your instincts notice the difference. Another painful stage appears when intimacy continues, but emotional presence disappears. Physically, everything may look normal. She participates, she touches you, and from the outside, nothing seems wrong. But internally, something feels empty. Her energy doesn't match yours. Her eyes feel distant, as if her mind is somewhere far away. That kind of disconnect is one of the hardest experiences to face because the body is there, but the soul isn't. Many men respond by trying harder. They become more patient, more attentive, hoping that effort will bring back the connection that once existed. Unfortunately, desire rarely returns through pressure. When someone's emotional fire has moved elsewhere, extra effort only drains the person still trying. Sometimes the truth also appears through time itself. When someone truly values the relationship, they naturally make space for it. But when priorities shift, you start noticing repeated late returns and vague explanations. Once or twice is normal. Life happens. But when it becomes a pattern, the pattern itself begins to speak. Lateness then becomes more than a scheduling issue. It becomes a quiet test of how much you're willing to accept. If nothing is questioned, the behavior continues because it faces no resistance. Setting boundaries doesn't require anger or interrogation. Sometimes it simply means acknowledging what you see and refusing to ignore it. Eventually, the pressure of maintaining a false narrative becomes too heavy. Stories start to crack, details change, timelines don't line up, and explanations begin to contradict each other. When someone is hiding something, the more they talk, the more inconsistencies appear. Their eyes avoid contact, their tone shifts, and the story becomes harder to maintain. Many men believe they need absolute proof before trusting their instincts. But real life rarely provides dramatic evidence. More often, it's a collection of patterns, small signals, and changes that quietly build a clear picture. At that point, the most powerful step isn't arguing for the truth, it's recognizing it. The goal of understanding these signs isn't to turn you into someone who constantly suspects betrayal. The purpose is awareness. The worst damage in relationships doesn't always come from secrets. It often comes from ignoring what you already sense deep down. Sometimes distance can come from stress, exhaustion, or communication that has slowly broken down over time. In those cases, honest conversations and effort can repair what has weakened. But if every pattern continues pointing in the same direction, there comes a moment when self-respect must lead the decision. Real love should never cost you your dignity. If a relationship can be repaired, face it directly and work on it together. But if the truth becomes impossible to ignore, walking away with your self-respect intact is not failure, it's clarity. Think about one situation in your own life where you may have ignored your instincts. Maybe it was sudden distance, unexplained tension, or stories that never quite matched reality. Instead of brushing it aside, take a moment to face it honestly. Decide whether it's something that can be repaired or something that requires a stronger boundary. Your choices should never be guided by fear or confusion. They should come from clarity. Because in the end, the real question isn't only whether someone betrayed you. The deeper question is whether you're willing to betray yourself by refusing to see the truth.